What is the best Wolverine film, and what is the worst? Snickety snick. Better than Wolverine Origins, these claws. I'm not talking about what is the best non-cameo movie with Wolverine. You could sort of go to Metacritic for that. I'm talking about what movie has Logan's most essential moments that define Hugh Jackman's Wolverine to us. I promise you, how I rank these 8 movies is not what you expect.
Let's go.
For example, let's start with the worst Wolverine movie, which is obviously X-Men Origins.
Your Honor, I object!
While Wolverine Origins is absolutely the worst movie on this list, it is not the worst Wolverine movie. Gather ye close, as I would like to present the very worst Wolverine movie to you, X-Men 3, The Last Stand. Metacritic puts Deadpool and Wolverine at 56%, just below X-Men The Last Stand at 58%.
Doesn't sound right.
If there is a single person who ever cracked open an X-Men comic book that considers X3 to be a better film than Deadpool and Wolverine, then I just ask you to unsubscribe. Actually, please don't. I mean, I don't want to have to mail this back. I just got it, and I love it. This movie has no great fight scenes and no great Wolverine moments or lines.
Charles always wanted to build bridges.
We're gonna have to build a bridge and move on from this cinematic soulless studio cash-in that's just not just the worst Wolverine movie, it's easily the worst movie on this list. And that brings me to 7th place, Wolverine Origins. Actually, there is another film that is a worse Wolverine movie than Wolverine Origins. But first, welcome to the panel where we look through the world through the frame of the comic book. My name is Jason BADOWER'S. I'm a professional comic book artist and writer. I also got to do a little work on the Wolverine and Logan. And you can currently see my art on all the Wicked Lego sets and toys. Pretty sweet. What is the 7th worst Wolverine movie? X-Men Days of Future Past. The standout Wolverine scene is undeniably where Wolverine wakes up in the past. Hugh Jackman created an absolutely definitive physique, but the action and the dialogue are not particularly good or inspired in the scene. The other moment worth mentioning is when he goes through the metal detector and he realizes that he doesn't have his adamantium skeleton. Days of Future Past also has the best Wolverine haircut in any movie, in my opinion. But the big problem is that Wolverine has no active role in the movie. He does 2 things. 1, he goes back in time and he tells Xavier, who is the actual main protagonist of the movie, that Mystique is going to kill Trask. And 2, he introduces us to the real highlight of this movie, Quicksilver. And then Logan spends the rest of the movie sitting at the back of every room, or when it's a really important scene, having a very convenient time seizure. He doesn't have a single memorable fight scene, and he's so useless to the narrative that 10 minutes before the end of the film, he gets thrown into a river and off screen, leaving everyone else to wrap up the movie. And now, finally coming in at 6th place is Wolverine Origins. Wait, would you believe that there is another film that is a worse Wolverine movie, and that is X-Men 2. Whoa, stay with me, hear me out. This is a great film. Is it way better than Wolverine Origins?
Hell yeah!
Is that mansion scene peak rockstar Wolverine?
Hell yeah!
But let me ask you a tough question. Is there another single great Wolverine moment in this movie? You're surely not going to mention the completely mediocre Deathstrike fight. And did you forget that Wolverine got knocked out by a policeman's handgun? And emotionally, Wolverine in the comics has a real essential love for Jean Grey. That is one of his defining traits. But at the end of the movie, when Jean sacrifices herself, it's her husband Cyclops that shows us what real love looks like.
And I'm sorry that I said a bunch of harsh but very true things.
Okay, surely we have to get to Wolverine Origins now. Nope. Next up is James Mangold's masterpiece, the film that defined Wolverine for 4, perhaps 5 years. Yep, The Wolverine. Okay, so maybe masterpiece is a little over the top here. Despite the absolutely tepid plot by committee, James Mangold managed to squeeze in some genuine Wolverine moments into this movie. Seeing Wolverine as a POW in Japan and healing from an atomic blast was ridiculously fantastic. The fight at the funeral was the first time that I argue we see a proper superpowered Wolverine fight. The ninja arrow attack gave us this cool image. I also believe depowering superheroes removes what makes that character special. Someone somewhere decided that it would increase the drama of the movie if the audience thought Wolverine without a healing factor might actually die at some point before the end of the film. Like really, do you honestly believe Arnie's gonna die before the end of the movie, or even Bruce Willis in any movie after Die Hard 1? No. The tension is that if he gets knocked off the train, he will never find Mariko again. I believe the action drama in a Wolverine story is not if he'll survive, it's if he'll fail those around him. The Wolverine gives us a beautiful shadow of the character that we love in a nonsensical story. Next up, we surely have Wolverine coming in at the 4th best Wolverine movie ever, we actually do have X-Men Origins. Wolverine. Why on earth would I put this piece of garbage movie above any of those other mostly decent movies beforehand? In between all the sub-mediocrity, Wolverine Origins had some killer Wolverine moments. Seeing Wolverine and Creed fight their way through multiple wars was absolutely awesome. Wolverine turning his motorcycle with his claws is my nomination for second best superhero motorcycle maneuver. But the real highlight of this movie is the adamantium infusion. Molten metal being bonded to Wolverine's bones through the graphics, and Hugh Jackman's thrashing is so visceral. This scene also creates what I argue to be one of the most iconic images of Wolverine ever, right up there with the best of the best that we've ever seen on the comic book page. The moment he bursts out of the tank. This is visually the apex Wolverine moment in all these movies. And then when the bullet ricochets off his skull and he gives him that look, amazing. This whole incredible sequence is only mildly ruined by him rabbiting out of there like he remembered he left the stove on. What? I'm just saying that the best moments isolated from the slop around them are genuinely great Wolverine moments. Oh, and did you notice that Creed was pretty much the template for Wolverine's fighting style in Deadpool and Wolverine, which is coincidentally our third best Wolverine movie, Deadpool and Wolverine. Visually, it is a Wolverine feast of feasts. Come on, Patch, Age of Apocalypse, Mark Silvestri's iconic cover were all ridiculously cool. But seeing the brown suit and seeing the cover from Hulk 340 is probably my personal favorite Wolverine moment on screen. And it's been said before, that yellow suit, as Magneto might say,
Perfection.
with these low signature comic book poses for the first time on the screen and Wolverine charging forward on all fours, it just blew my mind. This is the best action Wolverine we have ever seen. Unlike all the previous movies, Deadpool and Wolverine finally gives Wolverine a true emotional moment that really moves me. Wolverine's greatest struggle in the comics is, am I a man or am I an animal? The moment that gets me is when Wolverine explains why he wants to save Cassandra Nova. When he declares,
It means I'm an X-Man. And I know your brother. He would not let me stand here and watch you die. This is for Charles.
that is the man finally struggling over the beast inside him. That is Wolverine. But despite all this awesomeness, in my opinion, Deadpool and Wolverine is only the third best Wolverine movie. Because Deadpool and Wolverine sits behind and leans heavily on Wolverine's start and Wolverine's end. Let's talk X-Men 1 versus Logan to see who will take the top spot as the greatest Wolverine movie.
Round one, fight!
One of the most iconic parts of Wolverine's character is his Berserker Rage, and Logan also gives us, hands down, the best Berserker Rage moment in any movie visually and emotionally. I could watch that scene again and again and again until my wife calls social services. I believe that X-Men 1 has the greatest unmatched Wolverine claws moment. It's the very first time he pops his claws on screen. I still get chills up my spine and a burst of dopamine exploding into a surge of pure joy every time I watch it. And then we see the slow splitting of his skin as the middle claw comes out. And the idea that he can control that middle claw separately leads to my second favorite claws moment in all of these movies. When Wolverine goes through the metal detector in the Statue of Liberty. But it's not just the best non-combat claws moment. It is a great character moment. And X-Men 1 is the only movie to make a creative, definitive change to the character that actually got folded into comic book community. They moved the claws from the backs of his hands to between his knuckles. A change so subtle that, like all good ideas, it seems like a no-brainer until you realize it's truly genius. But what sets these two movies above the rest is what they do emotionally with Logan. In my Why Wolverine Matters video, I posed the idea that Wolverine's appeal is that he's the blue-collar member of the superhero community. He's the first guy who gets his hands dirty, the first to step forward, the first to get knocked down, and the first who has to get back up. A buddy of mine, Paul, who lays driveways for a living, gave me a bunch of really articulate reasons why he's such a huge fan of Wolverine. One is his blue-collar attitude. When a problem falls in Logan's lap, he's not going to kick the can down the road, because then his buddy's going to have to deal with it. Logan will fix it, but he'll fix it his way. The best example of this is in the hotel scene in Logan. It falls to Logan to literally claw his way through the pain to solve the situation in the only way that he can. But there is another core part of Wolverine's comics mythology. Wolverine often has a young sister or a daughter like sidekick. Kitty Pryde and Jubilee most notably in the comics, and in the movies, Rogue and X-23. It's fantastic shorthand because there's nothing that better defines a good man as one that can not only be trusted to protect a young girl, but also steps up to try and be some sort of role model for her. An idea created by Chris Claremont. But where the movies move Chris Claremont's idea forward is in asking one essential question. Why? And in answering this question, X-Men 1 gets to the core of Wolverine's character in a way that comics have only ever hovered near. In Hollywood screenwriting, a good protagonist has what's known as the lie. This is a false belief that the protagonist has to overcome. In the movie Rocky, his lie is that he believes that he is a loser. Writer David Hayter, yes, Solid Snake himself wrote X-Men 1. What he did was give Wolverine a lie that has not only plagued him, but propelled him through all his movies. Cinematic Wolverine's lie is a fundamental inner belief. Nothing good ever happens to anyone close to me. I would argue this is also Logan's tragedy because people he cares about actually die a lot. Logan's answer is then to push everyone away, but Logan's internal and eternal conflict occurs when this belief that everyone close to him dies clashes with his fundamental flaw. Wolverine's greatest tragedy, and the reason why we love him, is that he can't stop caring. It's this pushing away and pulling in of the people that he cares about that defines Wolverine. When Charles passes, Logan's rage, pain, and emotional exhaustion push him to abandon this little girl. But I know that even if that car had started, he wouldn't have got very far. Because we see this for the first time, he tried to drive away and leave Rogue in the middle of the road in X-Men 1. Logan knows that the bad things might happen to the people he holds close, but he also knows for sure that really bad things will happen to both Rogue and Laura if he does nothing. It's why he injects himself with lethal amounts of mutant steroids to save Laura. Which brings me to the most emotional moment in all these films. If you want to see me cry, sit me down and cue up Wolverine's death and Laura's eulogy in Logan. When Laura brilliantly, just brilliantly, turns the cross into an X, all the Wolverine stories I've ever read, that his inability to stop caring, the thing that we love most about him, was not only his downfall, but also his redemption. The bittersweet realization that a man whose tragedy was that he has to forever endure all this pain, finally gets to rest.
Oh, this is what it feels like.
So take a second. Which do you think is best? The absolutely amazing setup in X-Men 1 that launched a character with 9 films across 25 years? Or the pitch perfect ending of that character? Let me know in the comments below. I'll tell you my call after these messages from me. Hey, if you're digging this, I'd love you to metaphorically pull up a chair and join me by hitting that subscribe button, because I hope it's obvious that I care and I love this material. Maybe you might show your love by hitting that like button and keeping my healing factor going. Please check out my comics. Joker Harley Criminal Sanity for DC Comics Black Label is the best thing that I have ever drawn. It's in your local comic book store, or you can get it on Amazon.com. A New York cop once told me it was the best police procedural that he'd ever read. And please enjoy my 100% free comic, The Last Son, at jasonbadower.com, and you can head to twitch.tv/jasonbadower to keep me company while I draw it. Alright, let's do this.
Conan, what is best in life?
I believe that the greatest Wolverine movie is X-Men 1. If you're a huge fan of Logan, I please warn you to jump ahead to this timestamp, because I'm going to piss in your adamantium poison Cheerios right now.
Let's go.
While Logan is a far superior film to X-Men 1, it's called Logan because it strips as much of the Wolverine out of the movie as it can while simultaneously undermining everything that had ever been established about Wolverine. They didn't just kill an old fading Wolverine, they also killed X-24, an evil Wolverine at the height of his powers with an adamantium bullet. But we've already seen a bunch of those at point range, just give him amnesia. You cannot end a character in a way that we've already seen doesn't work. I believe good character stories bend to the character's needs. Good character stories don't bend the character to the story's needs. And seriously, having Wolverine being,
Well, technically you were chest by a tree.
is a pretty uninspired and underwhelming end to a 25-year-long cinematic legacy. Because Wolverine doesn't get beaten. It's exactly what Deadpool says. He essentially just
Ran out of batteries trying to save someone.
And if the movie presupposes
You do know they're all right? I mean, maybe a quarter of it happened, and not like this.
and adamantium bullets do kill Wolverines in this universe, then despite what Deadpool and Wolverine says, this is a multiversal variant of Logan, and it's not the same character that we've been following and falling in love with for all these movies. As emotionally amazing as the ending of Logan is, what I can't shake is that it's either a false ending for a false character or a weak ending for the faded shadow of a character. It is the greatest what-if story of all time, but it's a Logan movie, not a Wolverine movie. They never lied to us. The name's on the box, technically. I'm truly sorry if I've affected your love for this movie. How about I give you something to pick me at? Let's talk about why I believe X-Men 1 is the best Wolverine movie. X-Men 1 has the greatest moment between Wolverine and any of his villains, not just in the movies, but possibly even in the comics. It is in the Statue of Liberty when Logan is imprisoned by Magneto, who lectures his justifications. We've heard all this in the comics before, and he calls,
You're so full of you're really so righteous. It'll be you in that thing.
This is the greatest philosophical moment between Wolverine and any of the villains he'll proceed to face. In Magneto's reaction, we truly see who Magneto is, because Wolverine cut Magneto to his very core without his claws. That is Wolverine. I believe that while you can critique almost everything else in X-Men 1, the depiction of Wolverine is almost totally flawless visually and emotionally. In 104 minutes, it captured and communicated to non-fans why we as comic book fans had loved Wolverine for 25 years. David Hayter in X-Men 1 created the definitive template for Wolverine. Hayter's take is so powerful that every film thereafter has been chasing this same lofty height while leveraging and milking X-Men 1's legacy for all it's worth. The irony being that none of them reach that same height. None of them capture the loner, the lover, the animal, the protector, the warrior, and the smartass that truly is the Wolverine in X-Men 1. First up, a huge thank you to my amazing neighbor, Matt Brown. Thank you so much for these, man. You can find him on Instagram at Matt Brown Writes. If you can get your hands on any of his novels, be hugely appreciated. You'll have yourself a great time. These are absolutely amazing, but also slightly painful and uncomfortable, which I also think is thematically appropriate. Wow. That is everything I have to say on Wolverine's cinematic legacy to date. My buddy Scott and I did a deep dive into all these movies on our road to Deadpool and Wolverine. Links pinned in the comments below. Except X3, because watching X-Men 3 The Last Stand is actually considered a human rights violation by Amnesty International. Again, I can't stress enough that I've grown to love Logan more and more over the years with every rewatch, but X-Men 1 is still the superior Apex Wolverine movie. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Thank you so much for making it to this point. I love you. Take care of yourself. If you can, try and take care of someone else. And I'll see you in the funny books. How do you hang out with your friends? Restaurants, bars, clubs, maybe over at someone's house, just staring at a TV screen, or just sort of hanging out? And if you sit around watching a movie, that's cool, but you're not really talking. I still, hand on my heart, believe that the best way to hang out with your friends is to play a role-playing game. Unlike a board game, role-playing games are not competitive. They are cooperative. You and your friends actually hanging out and creating stories and moments you'll look back on and laugh at together. But the worst thing about role-playing games is getting started. There's a lot of rules, and being the games master takes a heck of a lot of preparation time each week. Enter GameMastersForHire.com. If you've always wanted to play Dungeons & Dragons, GameMastersForHire.com are experts at teaching you all the rules while taking you on an epic adventure. And if you're loving it, you can play the same character every session, who will then get more and more powerful. If you're a wannabe dungeon or game master, there's no faster way to learn and be great at it than booking a training session with GameMastersForHire.com. For the experienced D&D groups out there, if you're looking for a special birthday gift for your DM, the best gift you can give is to let them be a player for a change by booking a birthday adventure. GameMastersForHire.com will make sure the guest of honor is treated like a hero on their special day. Game Masters for Hire can also run games for anyone, from dinner parties to kids parties, corporate events, bachelor or bachelorette nights, to ongoing campaigns every week where you play the same character every session. It's like a story that you're building with your friends. GameMastersForHire.com are available online, which is how I play with them. But if you live in the greater Los Angeles area, they can do in-person games with miniatures and sets that'll blow your mind. Please visit GameMastersForHire.com for more information. Reach out to Ollie and his team, and they'll help you out, whatever you need. And just like going out to dinner, split the cost between the lot of you. I'll even kick in. Just use my offer code BADOWER for 10% off your first game. I promise you're going to have an amazing time that you'll always remember. Thank you, GameMastersForHire.com, for sponsoring this video.